Did you get the bit about trade finance being big? It's twice the value of the US dollars in circulation today every year, according to the World Bank. Most of it's done by banks. It involves mountains of paperwork, and we're trying to change it. We believe our system to be unique. It lets traders get on with moving goods across the globe while we fund it and allow them to execute online using a simple system. Best way to explain it is to demonstrate it, of course, and Mike here will split his personality at least 4 ways by being all the players in a single transaction on our live platform. Before we start, let's set the scene. We have a UK buyer who has sellers of solar panels in China, and he needs to get $100,000 worth of solar panels out of China and into the UK and sold into the market. The Chinese seller requires paying upfront in dollars prior to shipment, and we have offered him a way to do it. Traditionally, such a trade would be done by a bank. They would require to take possession of the goods at some stage, and it would definitely require mountains of paperwork. Using TradeRiver's system, we can fund and execute the transaction online in such a way the buyer no longer needs any cash at all in his supply chain. He knows that the time between making the order and receiving the money from his customers in the UK is about 3 months. Normally, he'd have to do this by either sending the cash up front or go to the bank to fund it for him. The buyer has an unsecured credit limit of around £450,000, and he's used about £250,000 of it, leaving him £200,000 ample for his $100,000 trade. Now, he can use this limit as and when he wishes with any of his suppliers. He chooses the point at which the supplier gets paid. We don't care. So first he sets up the transaction. He chooses who he wants to trade with. He inputs a purchase order number. He describes the goods. He says how much he wants to pay his seller and in what currency. He tells us how long he needs before he pays the money back. And he inputs an inspection period and then signs for it with a digital signature. This sends an email to the seller telling him that there is a new transaction and he needs to go look at it. In that email, there is an encrypted link, which, when he clicks on it, takes him to the same page the buyer had before, and he's invited to either amend the transaction as he sees it or to ask us to approve it. In this case, we're going to let him ask us to approve it, and we are going to approve it straight away. Each step in the process is like this. The seller signs to dispatch the goods. The buyer signs to say he's received them, inspected them, and accepted them. In truth, we don't care where the goods are. This could be done pre-manufacture if buyer and seller want to. The important thing is the buyer is in charge of when he pays the money. The rubber gets close to hitting the road when the seller issues the buyer a payment obligation. The payment obligation is where the buyer puts himself on the line to pay us back later. It looks a bit like this. And when he signs this document, which is effectively a bill of exchange or a promissory note, he puts himself on the hook to pay us back later, and we immediately pay the seller in cash, in local currency, wherever he is on the planet, and he's gone. He's been paid. The buyer now owns the goods, and nobody came in between them. The buyer now has 100 days to repay us. Given his 90-day supply chain, that should be ample. He should get his cash before he has to pay us back our money. We've just removed $100,000 from his supply chain. We've given him $100,000 in unsecured cash. Look at it whichever way you want. When he settles with TradeRiver, the buyer's credit limit is credited a bit like a credit card limit, and he can reuse that money over and over again. And that's really all there is to it. We've done over 1,000 transactions this way. we've lent over 50 million sterling to UK companies, and on each occasion, they've required no collateral, no assets. They've never had to give us the goods for any length of time, and we've used the same technique for each and every transaction. We've got a US partner now. They too have US importers transacting across the globe, and interestingly, US buyers have been discovering the UK players, and they've been trading with each other. And the network's growing. It's easier to imagine a global community of TradeRiver customers, all using the same system, the same parameters, and importantly, benefiting from a simple, efficient system to trade across the globe. That's all I have. Thank you very much.